Intersect.com like a sandbox to where before you even delve into the whole tutorial series, you can test the system out to make sure it's something that you'd want to be checking out how to learn. So I'm going to be using WebIntersect.com and build live on the server as I go, and I'll be backing up and everything. So I'll probably show some sensitive data that you shouldn't ever show anybody, but that's okay because my system will be backed up if it gets hacked up. Okay, so let's see. The first member system we created last year at developphp.com. Some of you guys might be familiar with it. We're going to use some of those first few steps to start our new one, but we're going to branch off into other structures to create a more robust system. Like I said, we're going to allow them members to upload MP3s, FLV files to play videos on their profile. We're going to allow them to upload pictures and then make a flash-based gallery to display those pictures. It'll be a dynamic, probably XML-based gallery. That way we can just run an easy loop on it to display all the pictures. So it's important to note that, well, this first video is going to just give the rundown. It's going to talk about what we're going to be doing in the first few steps and setting up the server and everything. So the first thing you want to do is, once you get your domain name and hosting account, you want to make sure you set your hosting account as Linux and PHP. Maybe when you buy it, if you get the choice between Windows and ASP or Linux and PHP, choose Linux and PHP because that's what we're going to be using in the system. And if you're on Windows and ASP server, it might not work for you. So you want to make sure the hosting account that you purchase will offer free MySQL databases. You don't want to pay for those because they're free. We're going to use MySQL to start the system because it's free and it's powerful. I mean, it can get you up into the millions of members with not too many problems. If you ever see you get way up in numbers with your members, then if you see any performance decreases or decrease in performance in your system, then you can look into getting a more powerful database system set up for your website. But I don't think you'd ever need to unless you got wildly popular. So yeah, I'm gonna go nice and slow in this tutorial series. Maybe a little bit too slow for some of you veteran coders out there, and I apologize for that. But I want to make sure that I get the most the most insight in, so I can avoid people coming at me with questions later, because I'm just going to offer all this source code free, and people can get what they can from it. And so, and I'm just one guy, so if I tried to tackle all support for this kind of system that I'm putting out here and showing people, I would never get any rest. It would be overwhelming, so I can't do anything like that. But that's why I must go slow. I must show everything nice and clear, take my time, and like I said, if I go too slow, I apologize. So the first step, after the first step in getting our hosting account set up, and the reason why I'm going to build it live, and I recommend you build it live, is because you're building on the actual environment it's going to be running on, so you won't run into any snags when it comes to switching over to your actual server. It's very important. And if you're good like me, it'll be up and done in 3 and 4 days, your whole website. So search engines won't even have a chance to spider your website or even notice it before you're launched and done. So that's that. And so what you do is you run a quick PHP test file to make sure that your system is parsing PHP correctly. And I have that at Develop PHP here. Which one is it? If you go to the PHP and MySQL tutorials, I'm going to reference a lot of stuff here actually as we go. And this one is the second link in the introductions, the basics to PHP, is how to check if PHP is enabled on your server. And on this page you'll see that there's a script there, or a file that you can run, and it's called, you name it PHP check.php, and you run it from your server, and you make sure that you get the proper output there before you even get started with the system. And okay, after you're sure PHP is running, then we create the database that will store the member text string data, and files go into their folder. Now let's talk about that for a second. I see a lot of people, when they discuss databases online, people starting out with, working with databases, they talk about putting images and this and that, media files, whatever, storing those type of things in their database, and you should never do that. And there's no reason to do that when you're working with a website type system, where you have the power to give your users a folder, and in that folder, every time a user joins the system, we create a little magic folder out of thin air using PHP, and that's their folder. It's got their name on it or their ID on it. So all we have to do when they upload media files, when they upload JPEGs or pictures, whatever, and they upload any kind of media files, we sync that directly into their folder on the server. Nothing like that goes into the database. And I say text string data because that's all I use a database for, is text string data exclusively, nothing else. Any type of other kind of files go on the server in the members folder. And this way your database runs really quick, clean, and smooth. So in creating the database, you can go to Develop PHP and get some insight into that, and that would be on the member system part 1 of the old member system, which will be referring to some of those steps, first few steps. And here we have the create the database. That'll be step 1 right here. You click on that and you go through all of these 7 steps. Once you get to step 7, there's a little script there that you run. You grab this, you make this script, and this is a very important little script to the whole system, because this script is for connecting to the database anytime we have to connect to it in the code. So say we have some PHP script that needs to register the member when they first come and sign up. This thing's going to be called on, this little script here. It's called connect to mysql.php. It's going to be called on to connect to the MySQL database. Otherwise, you can't sync the data into it. And right here, you grab this little file, and this tests. This is a MySQL quick test.php. Basically, just read this whole page, and then you're done with step. Where are we? With step 3. Once you read that whole page of Develop PHP and you get through it, everything successfully, then you're done with step 3. Then we can move on to step 4. And I'm already done. I created the database for WebIntersect.com, and but it has no tables in it yet. That's where I am now. I'm at step 4 here. So we're going to create the member table inside of the database that's already set, and add the appropriate fields inside of it. That's also a Develop PHP under the member system tutorial. Let's close that one out, and let's go to step 2. And that's where I have a script that shows you how this actually creates the table on the database. All you have to do is run it in your browser. So you take this script, Control C, open Dreamweaver, whatever version you're using. I like Dreamweaver 8. I have the newest version, but I like Dreamweaver 8. And create new PHP file. And this one is going to be, just go into the code view. Just get rid of all of that they give us as default. Let's put all the code in that we copied there. Okay, now I'm going to do just a couple of tweaks to this, and then I'm going to explain this line by line, okay? Okay, I went ahead and changed a few things that I wanted to change. I added a website field and a YouTube field. So I want to be able to allow the members to embed their YouTube channel directly on their profile. And I'll show you how I do that later on in later parts of this tutorial, which there will be many parts. That way people can jump in and out of sections they want to jump in and out of to go back to, or if you're an advanced developer already and you just want to see one little part of something I'm doing, you can just head to that section. Let's see. So let's go ahead and explain this here. We have include once, connect to mysql.php, and that's the file we made. Let me show you my directory structure so you guys know where I'm starting here. Okay, so say you have the root to your website. Here, let me just close that and show you from here. On my desktop, here's my website, WebIntersect. This is the one I'm building, my new project. Inside of that I have two folders. One is root. That's going to be the root directory. It's going to be modeled like my, or it's going to reflect the same structure that the root directory online is going to have for the site. So here we just have site design source files, which hold all my source files for the site. And then in the root folder, there's images folder, like normal, all lowercase, and it just has my logo temp file, JPEG. And then the scripts folder, I have that connect to MySQL file that connects to our MySQL database for us every time we need it to. So what we'll do is we'll go back into Dreamweaver here. We're going to make sure we save this new create member table file into the scripts folder. That way it'll connect to the MySQL, it'll execute correctly for us, and then we can delete it from the server after we get it up. So that line includes that connect to MySQL file. That way we connect with this to MySQL, the newly created database. Then we print ourselves a message after it connects successfully, because if it doesn't, it won't print this message here. It'll print out a different message, and you'll see what the error message is. But you print success in database connection, you'll see that line. And then if you see at the bottom success in table creation, that means it successfully went through and it did indeed create the table inside of your database. And if you see no table created, that means you have some kind of problem connecting or something, or whatever. Something you'll have to debug on your own, because I can't help you with that, because there's some specific environment configuration that you have that's not allowing the system to work at this early stage. Okay, so let's talk about what we have here. So we just printed ourselves a couple of messages, but in between is when we created the table there. And we just set a variable, and that's set to create the table right when that variable is accessed by the PHP file. So it creates a table called My Members, and inside that table it adds all these fields. The ID field, first name, middle name, last name, country, state, and you'll see it says not null and on some of those, and that means nothing or not empty. If you see null, that means that field can be empty. These other fields, when that data set or that row is put into place into the database for that member, some of these things cannot be empty, and we claim that here. And some of them can be empty, like the middle name, the YouTube, and the website. Those can be empty, those are null. Most of them are not null though, because they must have data in them. And so they're set to varchar 255, most of them. And this one's set to a date. This is a date field. And the first one, the ID field, is set to an integer field, and it has a value of 11, or a length of 11. And that's also set to not null, and it auto increments itself. So when each member joins, say I join, I get member, I'm ID 1. Next member joins, he's ID 2, and so on and so forth. And you don't have to code that in; it does it auto incrementing. Okay, so what else we have here? We have the account type. is going to be, well, here we have a text type field, which will hold a whole bunch of a whole lot of text string data. Most of these are just set to hold 255, and that's as many characters as you can put into that field. It won't hold any more than 255. The text field will hold lots more, and that's why we set that up as the bio or the about me section for the person, so they can put lots of text in there, lots of paragraphs, HTML code, whatever they want. Here we have the account type, which is an enumerated field, and that has set values of default of A, B, and C. I created default values of A, B, and C. Yours can be 1, 2, and 3, whatever you want. And that has a default value of A. So when somebody joins my site, they are a default member type of A. If I want to change it later on in the system, I just change it to B or C, and then they can have special privileges on the site. That's what that's for. And email activated, that's whether or not the person has successfully activated through email, which is a security measure to stop spam bots and make sure people are real humans when they join your site. You send them an email right when they register, and when they hit the activation link, you know that that's the correct person and they're a human, and they are the owner of that email address that joined your site recently. Okay, so that's the, yep, so that switches from 0, which is created by default when their account's created by default and their row goes into the database, it's 0, and then when they get that email later and they hit the activation link, it swaps to 1, and then they're fully activated to the site to log in. Primary ID key, the primary key, is set to ID. It's the ID field here. The ID field in this table is the primary key. The unique key is going to be email, right here, the email field, and that's going to be unique because we don't want to have any duplicate emails within our system, and our PHP code will check for that as well. So let's go ahead and run this bad boy. Stop talking and do it. Okay, so let's save this file, save as, make sure we're in the scripts folder, save it as create table, create underscore capital T A B L E. Press save as, or press save, and then we can FTP them. I use FileZilla to FTP files to my servers, and you can use whatever you want. Now let's see, here's Web Intersects root directory. You can see my images folder, my fave icon. Fave icon is that little file that shows up here in people's browser. It's really cool to have those, and or have one of those. And then the index file you see there, which is what we're looking at here on the web. And this is just temporary. I'm going to be changing it real soon when we go deeper into the system, so or into creating the system. So let's go into scripts folder here. Actually, let's just go ahead and drag the whole scripts folder with those two files in them, or you can go ahead and create a directory here called scripts. Make sure it's named the same, press OK, double click into it, and just drag these two files there. There's one, there's two. Okay, now we can run it. So let's go ahead and grab the whole name of that, copy it, because we're going to paste it in the browser right now. Now we're going to run it in the browser to create the table. So we're at webintersect.com, or whatever your website is, .com, /scripts, because there's a scripts folder we have to dig into, and then press Ctrl V to paste that file name right there, create table.php, press enter, voila. Success in database connection, success in table creation. That completes the table setup. Now delete the file named create table PHP, and you are ready to move on. Let us go. That's beautiful. Okay, so we can press back, go back to our home page, and let's go ahead and delete that file, just like it instructed us to. We don't need it anymore. We still need that one. That one's always going to stay. The connect to MySQL file is always going to stay in that scripts folder. We're going to access that file many times within our system. Okay, so create table is done. We'll create some more tables later on in later tutorials for this series, but for now that's going to be the main one. That'll be the main table for the foundation of the system. Once you have the foundation, we have the foundation set up, then we can play around with different things. But we'll go ahead and continue on in a part 2 for this series. Now that we have the table created, we'll have make our home page here look a little bit more like a home page would for a community website, and we'll make the registration form to let the users register to the site. Add all of that data from the form to our MySQL database, and that'll be part 2, and then we'll go maybe into a few other things in part 2. Okay, we'll see you next lesson.